Hey, what's up? I'm Al Cox. I make games, play games, and everything in between. And today we are interviewing Darius Guerrero about just casual game dev stuff, maybe try to focus
Mm.
around philosophy, take a little break from making games, and just talk about making games. How's it going, Darius?
Oh, nothing much, but thank you so much for having me out. It's an honor. It's a privilege to be a guest at your show. I guess the very first guest for the
Yeah,
Game
yeah.
Dev experience.
Yeah, title's still subject to change, but we'll see how that goes.
All right.
Um,
So you've chosen wisely for your very first guest because I'm a hyperverbal SOB and we could talk about anything under the sun. There might be times that I space out though because I have to translate some words in my head because English isn't my native tongue. But I guess it would work out. We could do this in a way that would inspire, entertain, and motivate other game devs or any viewer that we might have. Hopefully.
yeah, yeah, and lucky for you, I've grown up internationally, so it's for me it's super common to talk to all kinds of people from all over the world. So I will try to also be clear but yeah, we've been talking for these past couple of days, and I
Mm.
think you'll be fine. And yeah, so you I just want to talk a little bit about you. You are the CEO, founder of AppSir Games. You've come out recently with Hopbound
Yeah.
and Dear Evil XE and all these popular games. Tell me a little bit about those games and how you got into uh, making games.
All right. So first off, how I got into making games. I think I've touched upon this a little bit with the Buildbox. What's the title of that?
Yes,
Box
the Box
Nation
Nation,
podcast. Yeah, yeah.
which I have
So
links below in the title to the Box Nation. That was kind of the inspiration for this. Thank you for mentioning that. Okay, continue, please.
I'm sorry I botched the name there. I forgot it for a sec. So games weren't my first love. I didn't really plan on making games at first. I first wanted to make indie films, like artsy indie films with a very low budget. But it turns out I couldn't even afford to rent equipment for these indie films. It takes a few $1,000s per day to borrow these high quality cams, and I couldn't find the right actors. So I thought
Gotta have
that
actors.
yeah, I could act myself. The
Oh,
only act
really? We might have to see some of this acting abilities.
I may be acting right now. But the only actors I could afford were a specific set of actors that would make you question what kind of film I was trying to make. Just kidding. That's an adult joke, all right. So anyway, I figured up that the other way I could do this is that I could make games instead and have a good story for these games. I just want to express that creative side of
Oh,
me.
I
Yeah.
see the connection now because I'm not sure if some of our viewers know this, but your games have it's almost like a thriller storyline. It's an amazing story, I believe there's like a universe, and it goes through
Yeah.
multiple games. And you know me, I've played a lot of your games from the beginning to
And I'm
end.
very proud that you played them on your channel. Wow. Thank you so much.
So,
So yeah.
hey, you keep making them, I'll keep playing them.
And I
Um,
won't disappoint you. So these movies that I was planning to make were like Black Mirror before Black Mirror was a thing. So
Outer Limits and Twilight Zone. These are from my town, but yeah, Black Mirror. Sorry, continue.
yeah, so Twilight Zone for the older demographic watching this live stream right now. So I'm sorry for that's not me being ageist. So if you can see the tech horror and weird vibes that my games have, that's out of me wanting to express, wanting to tell these stories. I couldn't make films, so I just decided to make games. And now we have probably the most insane mobile game universe we have on the AppSir and Google Play right now. Go play them, appsirgames.com. All free. Just pay the in-app purchase to remove ads. It would help me a lot.
Yeah, so if you
that's the
like
stuff.
Black Mirror, if you like Twilight Zone or Outer Limits, or if you've never even heard of I think most people haven't heard of it, but if you like Black Mirror, then AppSir games have that kind of like mental mind twist, which is very unique because at the end of the day, when people play games, I feel it's more of kind of like trying to escape or go into like a fun play mode of just like having fun. So to have that mind twist that you offer is unique.
Yeah. So that's how AppSir differentiates itself from the other studios making games. Because if you usually play a mobile game, you do it casually, almost mindlessly. You just tap, you just swipe.
I like that.
But for
that's for
AppSir,
me.
a lot of gears are turning in your head while you're playing these games. That's
Yeah.
what I'm trying to aim for. And I'm
So
glad
it's like a
everyone
conflict.
embraced it. Yeah. I'm glad everyone embraced that new direction for mobile games at least. And we made quite the impact. Very first Buildbox game to be nominated for the MGA, a Webby award as well.
I remember I voted for you. I was like,
Oh, thank you.
I probably have a YouTube video where I'm like, check out Darius and stuff like that.
Thanks, Al.
Yeah, so you wanted to make movies and the budget was thousands of dollars a day.
Yeah.
And you were like, I don't have thousands of dollars a day. And you made multiple games with storylines that encompass kind of maybe like hypothetically, if you had thousands of dollars a day with actors and stuff, you would almost make kind of like
very similar
Sixth Sense type of movie, but do it in a game. And you did it, and you continue to do it.
Yeah, and we're far from over. We've only just begun.
So what kind of expectations did you have when you released do you remember when you released your first game or what game that was?
Yes. I remember the very first, are we talking about mobile games?
I'm always open to everything, so it's up to you. But right. I'm always curious, like when you put out your first game, and like when was that, and then to maybe like take a retrospective look back to how things have progressed, because now you've been nominated for awards, been featured by Apple multiple times. You got like just games that go above and beyond in terms of just like messing with your mind and
mind
to
bending.
Look. Yeah. And I hope like saying something like a Sixth Sense type of idea in a game play, like it's not even like you play it. So, but when you released your first game, like, could you even have imagined all these things, or like, what was it like when you released your first game? Do you remember?
Yes, I do. Well, I made some games in school because we were required to make some games. So there's already a story there. But one of the very first games I made was Monument Rush and DVI, which is the other game. And these games actually are sort of a precursor to the stories we have in AppSir right now. You can see triangular monsters in there with eyes at the middle, sort of like the Trinemesis is to AppSir right now. And this game actually had some press. Monument Rush got featured in the #1 Asian magazine for kids back then, K-Zone. I don't know if you've heard about K-Zone.
I haven't.
Oh, all right.
Is that? It sounds like I think the K is Korea, but I'm biased.
Kids Zone. I think it's Kids
Kids.
Zone,
That
although I'm
makes.
not sure.
Yeah. So Kids Zone. Okay.
And then
You got.
it got played by the YouTuber named Alex Einstein. And if you can watch the video, and this is just an endless runner game, but it's brooding with atmosphere.
Yeah.
There's you can sense a sort of story there. And then this YouTuber, when she played the endless game, she role play some scenes, and then I think it blew up a little bit. It didn't got featured on the App Store, but it got like hundreds or maybe thousands of reviews, and the final score was 4.8 out of 5 stars. And this is something I'd first admit. This is the first time I'd admit this, but do you know the endless runner portion of Hopbound?
Yeah, I know that. I don't know if you remember when we talked about it because I was like playing that. I got like 400 plus I don't know the coins or whatever, and
Yes,
I used
yes.
them
And you
all
collect abo.
just to beat the game. I
All
had
right.
to even go back to. Oh, sorry. I was in Hopbound, the Endless Runner. Yes. Oh,
So
what it was influenced.
no, I would admit that should I say this? All right.
It's up to you.
The Endless Runner of Hopbound is actually almost a reskin of one of my very first games. So if you search Monument Rush, it's the same. Just isn't pixel art, but it's very, very, very similar to the point that.
I love
it's
it. I love it. I think that's great. I tell people all the time when they're trying to make their very first game to make an endless game, because don't get yourself like inundated with a bunch of things like level complete, progress, all the things you kind of want. But if you get the mechanic down and then you have an endless game and it's fun, like put a seal on it, like congratulate, like you made your first game, like, and then grow from there. But to hear that is awesome, because what was it like to go back to your original game that helped kind of give you some momentum into making even more games, even more Black Mirror like from that initial? Because obviously you have to like see everything you had done maybe years before, and now you have that experience, so you get to even make it even better with Hopbound. And Hopbound was released recently. Great game. I have a video on it if you just want to check it out. Darius made it, and so there was a lot there. But what was the like? What did you think when you were making Hopbound, but you were using some things from your first?
The same BB doll.
That sounds yeah, the BB dock. Darius uses Buildbox. I use Buildbox, but obviously there's dozens of game engines out there. But yeah, what was that like?
All right, I am a very, very sentimental person. So it's very, even if I remove like an old game of mine, I would always have it in my back pocket that one day I'm going to release this game with improved concept, improved graphics, or whatever. So it was always part of the plan. But to make it so that it isn't just a re-release of my old game, I included one of the stories I wanted to tell. So now you have the endless portion of Upbound, and now you have the story portion of Upbound, and I get twice the retention, twice the ads, because it's like 2 games in one. Plus, I get to make people play one of my very first games without them knowing it. So,
wow. I mean, how do you, that just seems like there's so many moving pieces and you're just able to like keep track. I don't know. I spent like 2 hours today, 3 hours yesterday, just trying to get like one to create a 3D gear, and then 2 to just put it into my UI and like make it like, I can't even imagine trying to keep track of all these finished components. Like I'm working on just like a UI button and I'm like stressing out over it, and you're got this grand plan. Like does that come like how do you develop these things?
Well, I wanted to be a director for films, right? So I write a lot of scripts. So the AppSir universe
Oh, you write
is
scripts.
here. These are the notebooks that contain everything that happened and will happen in the AppSir universe. So I better put this in a safe somewhere in case there's a fan out there. And don't you dare try to steal these notebooks from me.
Wait. You telling me you don't put that in the cloud?
No, I prefer writing about it. And wait, let me show you, I guess. And drawing, I even draw like levels in here. So I don't know if you can see that. No, I'm not gonna show that to you.
I'm looking too. I'm like,
I knew it
what
would.
is it?
I knew it would be out of focus. So,
Okay, cool,
so everything has been planned from the very start, and it really hastens the development process. I don't have to think about anything too much. I just trust that my past self got everything covered, and then it's all just polishing, making the graphics, actually putting it in the game engine, and then releasing it like a few weeks later. Dairy Evil only took 6 weeks to make.
Whoa, Dear Evil took 6 weeks to make?
Yes. And even up to 2 years later, we're still getting featured. Like, we've been Game of the Day very many times for the past 2 years.
That's right. That was 2 years ago. That was 2018. I remember because I had to play that game twice because I recorded it, and the first time I beat the game, none of it recorded because that's what happens in life sometimes. And I was so mad. I had to wait like a month or two to play the game again because we had been talking then, and you had actually hooked me up with a sneak peek and just
Yes.
don't release it. And then I played it and I was angry because I beat the game.
Yeah.
But speaking of that, you wrote almost like a screenplay before you ever sat down at a computer, opening up Buildbox and trying to like, and this is Buildbox 2018. You know Buildbox 2018. I know Buildbox 18. You were obviously very proficient. And I think I was only beginning my journey then, and you were like releasing hits. How long did it take you to write?
I guess it took me a year. So, because I already released a teaser trailer for an AppSir game in 2016, and I released some of my AppSir games as it is right now in 2017, late 2017. So it's an on and off thing, but I had another job then. I was focused as working as the training specialist for my government. So in my free time, I would write comics. It's actually in comic form. Some of the scenes in my script.
That sounds amazing. That literally sounds amazing. I mean, I think whatever anybody does to try to get that creativity out on paper is a huge first step, because a lot of, in my opinion, and I think this is also reflective of like the experience I get from the internet and from back, but a lot of people have ideas, but then when it comes to just literally writing them down, that doesn't happen. And or it's because when you put it to pen to paper, what you see you may not like, and you still have to move forward. Because if it took you a year to write, it kind of makes sense that it took you 6 weeks, because you had the vision of what you wanted developed. And
So a lot
then
of the creative, pondering that we do before we make a game, it's now out of the way. All I have to do is the graphics, click the
yeah,
gameplay, and then I can release. If I had the discipline, I could release all
you.
AppSir games like every 2 months. I could release a new game.
I mean, to be working on a script for a year and then sit down and make the game. It sounds like you got discipline to me. But discipline's a tough thing. Like, I think it even like constant try to like, when it comes to being creative and like writing stuff down, there's always like a lot of conflict. It's like, is this good? Is this bad? Does this make sense? Does this not make sense? And at some point you just have to just keep going forward because you could easily get stuck in that loop forever.
Yeah, yeah. But I guess you just have to be like John Wick. You have to be a man of focus, commitment, and sheer freaking will to ensure that you put the product out there. And if you have any insecurities about your games or whatever, you can always take the time to make changes before you hit the release button. And I tend to be insecure. The truth is, I may seem overly confident about the games I put out there, but I am an insecure person when it comes to making these games sometimes. So you would see me tweet stuff like, I hope you like my game. I or stuff like that before I release this.
Right,
A
right.
lot of this.
You're like, yeah. You're like, please like my game.
It took a lot of work. You have to use the pity card sometimes.
Hey, whatever works. I think it's says a lot when it comes to your mindset and the mentality maybe you have. And this is where I like talking about like philosophy because I don't know what kind of philosophy John Wick has, but I would like to adopt that philosophy. And I always think of, I mean, Keanu Reeves is like, he's an older gentleman. Like, I want to be like him when I grow up. Like but what can you speak more about the mindset you have in terms of getting things done and how you try to also mess with people's minds when they play your games?
All right. So, like I said, I guess AppSir, when you play AppSir games, a lot of gears start turning in your head while you play this. It's never too casual. So, how do you get these gears turning in people's heads? Well, they have to unknowingly ask themselves some philosophical questions while they experience the game. So,
Right.
have you heard of Alan Turing? Am I pronouncing his name right? Alan Turing. Turing test. All right. So
No,
this,
who's he?
I'm not really sure who he is, but I know what he said. He said
Okay.
that in order for an AI or a computer or a robot to truly transcend what he, she, or it is, it has to convince someone that it is human. This AI or this robot has to convince someone that it is human.
This is
So,
like some Elon Musk theory stuff. Like we're all in a computer
guess.
type of deal, maybe.
I'm not
Tell
really
me.
I'm not really following Elon Musk as much as I think what he's saying is maybe similar to what I'm trying to tell via my stories. But if you remember the Evil EXE, we have this character named
Turing test. Sunny
Yes.
Cast, who is just replied on the chat, says it's called a Turing test. Thank you.
Yes, the Turing test. And you can see some versions of that right now. Like you have checkboxes in websites. I am not a robot. A
Yeah,
robot
yeah, yeah.
can't answer those things. And then you have this CAPTCHA stuff. That's just to separate robots from accessing what only us humans can. But if a robot can pass this test, like when you
Yeah.
converse with an AI and it convinces you that you're talking to a human, is it a human then? If is it just as human as we are if it could convince us that it is human? And should we regard this AI or robot as human after passing the Turing test or the Turing test? If you remember in Dare Evil EXE, you have Aid. In Hopbound, you have Aiden. And in Artificial Iridescence, which is a PC game I didn't release on mobile, you had Ava.
Yeah.
And you can sort of build an emotional connection with these AIs as you go and play the game. Sometimes they troll you, sometimes they show you affection, and then
Well,
you
Darius, the
have
way you implement it in the games is beautifully because it's like, you need to stop doing this and like stop playing the game. And so it's
yeah,
like literally the game itself is telling you to stop playing the game, and you're like, what game doesn't want me to play the game? Like it's like it's a mind
yes, it's like a
man.
reverse psychology. You have to question it. Why are you making me stop playing? Are you hiding something? Are you someone I should
Exactly.
trust? Yeah. So you have these characters in the game that you know aren't human, but you sort of feel like you have a connection with them. You start interacting with them. You follow their instructions. So you build a sort of cross connection with them. And then you have to also question, so what if they convince me that they are human? Does that mean I should regard them as such? And then you have to also ask yourself, what if we are also just machines?
Whoa,
Oh
whoa, whoa, whoa.
no, how deep am I going?
We have to ask. I have to ask myself if I'm a human being.
Yeah, no, I mean, you're a human as well, but what if you're just a biological machine and these AI, these robots are just metallic, another version of existence, of consciousness?
Terminator Salvation. Have you seen that? I just saw that movie.
No,
It's like one of the few Terminators. I won't give too much away. Actually, I think I'm probably going to give the whole thing away. But
it's
basically,
okay. I think it's an old movie.
the main character is a robot, but he has the mind of a human being, and internal struggles ensue.
Yeah, all right. I haven't seen I only saw that like Terminator 2. You know the
Yeah,
villain there
the classic.
transforms into liquid metal or something.
Yeah,
And
Terminator
then
2 classic.
all right. I think I'm going very deep into the rabbit hole right now. But sure. Let's go deeper into the rabbit hole. So
Yeah.
so in these
By
games,
the way, I love that expression. You know, props to what Alice in Wonderland, Follow the White Rabbit. It's got a lot of
yeah.
influences all over. You know, like in the Matrix and stuff like that. So
Mm,
for me, I find this like Follow the Rabbit is interesting insight and reflection of culture
to the
and
rabbit.
how it is to go deep into your like mental
And that's
thought.
my dream for AppSir, by the way. One day it would ingrain in the pop in the consciousness of the public. It would be something that would be referenced like years to come. Anyway, I haven't really made the biggest games possible for AppSir. So now we go back to the
You got time.
philosophy
You got time.
of AppSir. So in these games, you have digital consciousness beings. Yana, do you remember Yana? Yana, Miles,
Yep. I don't remember Miles.
the girl you're supposed to rescue from
Okay.
Yana in their evil.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So they are like metaphysical digital bodies that
Mm-hmm.
reside in the games. Then at the end of their evil exe, I really wanted to delete this digital beings from my games because they are causing glitches and bugs
But
in the
they're
games.
corrupted. They're
Yeah,
corrupted.
they are the corruptions of my game. And then you have to ask yourselves, are these people that were once human but have been converted into digital code, are they still human? And in deleting them, am I murdering them?
Deep.
So that's why in the end of their evil exe, you have the option. You can actually not delete them. There's two endings for the game.
Oh man, yeah, I'm trying to remember what I did. That was 2 years. My memory is already, it's never, yeah. So you created alternate endings in your game.
Not all games, but for at
No,
least
no,
for
no,
their
yeah.
evil. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for Dare Evil, you created alternate endings because when you're making your game, you can do what you want, and you decided to make alternate endings.
Yes, yes. So at least it gives the player some autonomy or a feeling that they have a choice. Although the choice is very limited, they can choose to follow the dev and delete these corruptions, or they could just save them. So I think the player usually regards these digital beings as human because they empathize with them. They show care and compassion for these girls in the game. And then in philosophical wise, you have to also ask yourself, when do you lose your humanity? Every part of your body can be replaced. If I lost my arm,
Technically, it does. Technically, your blood cells and all those things, they replace themselves every
yes, they
like four
replace
years. So you're
themselves
a
every
new
four,
human
10.
body. Sometimes. So technically, biologically, this happens. Please
Yeah.
continue.
Yes, you're right. You're not the same person that you were 10 years ago because everything has been replaced. That's perfect.
Yep.
That's a perfect example. So if I lost my arm today, I would have to replace it with a prosthetic arm. And yet I am still human. If I replaced my heart with an artificial heart, I am still the man that I am. And so is if I could replace my brain with another replica, an exact replication of my brain in another form, in the form of digital consciousness, I guess that would still mean that I am still human because I am not my body. So that's that. Although some philosophers, I guess, would uh, question that, but I am trying to bring those questions into the AppSir universe as they play. Are these girls' corruptions in my game still the same human that they once were?
Well,
And
you're bringing that question to the forefront so that players have to then decide for themselves whether or not, and if they think this person is human because they were human at some point, but now does that change the definition of human, or is it a combination of like a human machine? Is it something completely different? It brings to question that I personally I think is very relevant in the 21st century because of our big adoption in technology and things like that. And so you can see that in a game you play, and these like let's say kids or people uh, didn't have these kinds of questions like 25 years ago, or
yes,
actually maybe they did have these questions, but they were in the form of something new. The what let's say like a novel invention of the time 100 years ago was like a paperback book, right? So like you could have like Jules Verne and people reading this, and then they are now asking themselves these deeper meaningful questions. And we are now in the 21st century and we have cool things like cell phones that have games. And this is what people are doing to fulfill their time and enjoyment going down that rabbit hole. And there's like even deeper questions of what does it mean to be a human or have been a human, but now you're a robot? Are you still like mind blown?
Mind blown. And I don't think we'd be able to find answers to this anytime soon. At least we have the questions right now.
I
And
mean, I would like to just say, to me, like the deeper the question, in my opinion, the better the question doesn't lead to answers, but leads to more questions.
that's the best kind of question, I guess.
Yeah, because it goes into the rabbit hole, because you don't go down the rabbit hole so that you can come back up to the, surface. You go down the rabbit hole to go to the tea party to see what's over there. Like like Alice in Wonderland type of style. Like you go deep, and then you go. I guess maybe technically, Alice, maybe she went back to up the rabbit hole. I don't remember, but it's like you go down the rabbit hole, even the rabbit hole of like becoming a game developer, when you originally wanted to be writing a movie and a script, but you didn't have thousands of dollars to hire actors and fulfill your script. Like, while I think that's unfortunate, you had the tenacity to find a way to like create games and still tell that story. So like I'm like bringing it back to you going down the rabbit hole of your game dev journey to make these games, to almost like touch your consciousness, bring it out so that other people now have to ask themselves, what am I doing in this game that doesn't want me to play it?
So I think at least in part I'm able to share part of my identity all over the world to any player playing my game, because they get to adapt some of the questions that I have myself. And now for this AppSir universe, much I don't have much difficulty creating like 100 stories from these questions, because the questions never end. So if we go from the things I said a few minutes ago, we can also ask, because there's a game world within the Dairy games. There's a game world, and there's the real world that we have right now. Is the game world the same, as valid as the real world? So it doesn't end. It's always existential questions, and these bring about the most memorable endings for the game. Somehow it touches upon their consciousness, it touches upon questions that they might have about reality, if people are questioning reality. And
Humans question reality, maybe robots don't. I think there's a difference. Who knows?
Yeah. All right. Let's not go too off tangent, but there's like a thousand topics you can have after that. Anyway, I'm excited. Thank you for the platform, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, like I think it's cool because your games so well tap into that, and we've even talked about like some philosophy, and you mentioned Carl Jung's archetypes.
Yeah.
I'm curious on like, did you research that before making some games, or was that like, did you stumble across that? Because I'm a big philosophy type of guy. I like Carl Jung. I like a lot of things. I was even like watching. I like Niels Bohr. He's like the father of quantum theory, but like as a philosophy as opposed to like mathematics or something. So I was curious on how Carl Jung may have like influenced you or your games or anything like that?
Oh, first off, I touched upon Carl Jung because I am a graduate of psychology.
I
I
didn't know
am.
that. I felt like I should have done my research. Why didn't I know
No,
that?
it's okay. It's okay. Uh,
That's awesome.
I try to be a jack of all trades, master of none. So I can talk about Carl Jung, but not as in depth because I only what I remember about Carl
Hmm.
Jung. All right. As far as I can recall, Carl Jung is the student of mother-loving Freud, the famous
Really?
Freud. Yeah, yeah,
Really?
and
I didn't know
and
that. I felt like I should
you
have known
can
that.
yeah they're like mentor and student or something or maybe friends. I'm not really sure. I'm just remembering it off the top of my head. But if you can actually look at their concepts, they have very similar concepts. They even have similar terms for some of these concepts. They both use the term libido. I mean,
Yep. Okay.
Sigmund Freud would define libido in a more sexual, erotic manner.
Yeah. Still need to do with the like parents or something like that.
Yeah, the
That's why
Oedipus.
I don't like. I disagree with him on all those things. I think he comes from like a conservative time period and
Yeah, and that's
um,
his way of fighting the
dealing with
repressed
it.
urges. But not, I don't really believe that libido is in itself just sexual because not everything we do is based on the fact that we want to get laid. Although that's nice. So Carl Jung actually has a broader definition of libido. He defines libido as merely unchecked urges, desires uninhibited or unchecked by any moral or legal or logical authority. So this is the part of our psyche that regulates our psyche. Our desires by itself, our purest desires are libido. And I can actually connect this with the latest game I released, Hopbound, which I'll explain later.
Please.
So when we have a clog in our libido, something prevents us from attaining our desires. That's how Carl Jung believes our mental illnesses come up, like depression and such. That's what happens when we get a clog in our libido. Carl Jung,
Interesting.
Carl Jung, some books include him as a philosopher, but he's more famous for being the psych guy. But he has touched upon esoteric stuff, which I'll discuss later. So
Yeah.
in Hopbound, we have Mayumi. Mayumi is the protagonist of my latest game, and she plays the game because she believes that she can get the forgiveness of her dead boyfriend after playing the game. Even though all rational and logical thought would tell her that it's impossible for her to find Aaron forgiving her while playing the game.
I think that's a really good point. When I was playing Hotbound, I thought of it more of, in the terms of like a human connection, where then like she, tragedy happened and she just wanted to kind of almost like feel a part of and like the experience of with her boyfriend who had passed, and that's why she was doing all the things. It was literally like what you just said, the
Yes.
human connection feeling, and in this case of a lost loved one, and even though that person isn't there, you can still feel their presence of when they were there, and
Yes.
that like to be addressed and to even like, and then so you feel for her trying to feel these things. So it's almost like trying to understand her feelings, you know, and I, you know, sometimes feelings are a tough thing to talk about. And so understand her feelings for her, someone she loved dearly. And so it's like you're watching and experiencing that, and you're just trying to, while not having the whole story. You know, there's more.
You have to find
There's
out.
more to this, but you get that feeling, and this is how I know I'm a human being. Is that
I
you know
think therefore I
feel
know.
that.
I feel
Yeah,
therefore I am. I mean, so yeah, that's exactly how I wanted people to experience the game. Mayumi knows Aaron, her dead boyfriend, isn't there. She's hanging on to the minute possibility that but the main core of Mayumi is she's playing
yeah.
because
Let's not give
she
too much
wants.
out of the game.
Yeah.
Don't give the
Okay.
plot.
All right, all right. She wants to get catharsis, and it is her libido that's making her continue to play the game, even though the game is horrifying, even though the game is very hard. She knows that she has to finish the game. That's what Mayumi's libido is making her want to do because she can stop playing the game at any time. So
And everything in the game is saying stop playing the game too. Like
yes,
you're also
yes.
adding that other additional to like stop playing. And I don't know about you, but whenever somebody tells me that to do something, I generally take a moment and then I just take it in, and then I do what I think is
You do it
best.
despite.
No. I specifically don't, because you know I've lived a good life, and I think younger me would do it because of spite, but present me listens and understands that I have a tendency to do things out of spite, but you're definitely poking those buttons by saying not
Yeah.
like
Yeah,
stop playing.
and it's fun to play with people's feelings in while they're playing the game. Not in real life though. No, that's not something you should do. All right.
Yeah,
All right, before I get too personal.
we're all humans. We have feelings, and I
Yeah.
think the ability to tap into touching someone's and like giving that feeling experience is done best when you understand how the feelings work.
Human psychology.
So yeah, exactly, because you are a psychologist.
Psychology major. I didn't take
Yeah.
the board exam
You have a
because
bar exam for psychology?
for psychometricians and for the psychology license too. Anyway, going back to the game, it even confirmed later on that Aaron really isn't in the game, but still Mayumi pushed through despite this rationality. That's her libido in action because she wants her psyche to be fixed. And while she plays the game, you can also encounter another concept of Carl Jung archetypes. Archetypes. Have you heard of the term archetypes?
Yeah. I think there's like 4 of them.
There are a lot of them.
Okay, there's a lot. That was a trick question. That was a test. I knew that there was a lot of archetypes, and that was a test, and you passed. So
I'm glad I did. Well, off the top of my head, there are universal archetypes and there are specific archetypes to a person. And first off, what are archetypes by itself? Archetypes are like symbols for our, how do I say
it's like
this?
the hero of the day. It's like your classic characters in a scary movie, if you will. You have like the nerdy guy. It's these core beings of certain types of essence that something like a scary movie can help embody that type of person or type of idea behind it.
Yes, yes. And I used a lot of archetypes for writing the scripts for the AppSir games. And Mayubi by herself experiences specific archetypes based on the trauma of her. Oh, should I spoil that part? Anyway, let's first discuss the uses
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah.
archetypes.
Good. I would be very wary of trying to, let
And
people discover it for themselves.
I
That's the
sort of have the
fun.
confidence that everyone watching has played it anyway. It's very anyway. Let's see. First off, archetypes are useful for our survival, and Carl Jung believes that some of our archetypes are universal, shared within all consciousness, and I think there are
That
some
sounds awesome.
science that backs this up because have you seen the recent Twitter controversy regarding C. elegans, the worms?
Uh, I
No,
try to
no.
pay attention to the internet, but I don't know what you're
All
talking
right.
about. Wait,
Uh,
see what?
C. elegans. It's a species of roundworm. And it's a very entertaining thread because all these biologists were trying to cancel each other because some biologists were saying C. elegans are overhyped and overrated. They are fighting over a worm on Twitter, on science Twitter right now.
Wait,
Anyway,
this is the worm that they have zoomed in, and it's like
transparent.
it looks like some kind of alien creature from space or something, right? No,
Uh, I guess so. It's anyway.
maybe not. So
I'm not really
they're
sure.
arguing over this worm.
Yes, yes,
Scientists
and
are on Twitter.
yeah, and it's a very fun thread. I link it to you later on after this stream.
Awesome,
Anyway,
thank you.
these some worms or some organisms actually inherit memories from the previous generation via the RNA transmission.
I think I've seen that movie.
And it's an observable aspect of real life organisms. So there might be some science as to our ancient memories that we have. So, for example, all of us have the mother archetype. It's a memory ingrained in our consciousness that tells us how to act when we are with a mother or mother figure. It's why infants know how to act towards their mothers just minutes after coming out of the
Right,
womb. They know how to suckle the
right. They
nipples
know
of
how to
their mothers.
survive.
They know how to cry when they need their mothers. That's an archetype. The mother archetype. So there are a lot of symbols that are guiding us to survive. And it's ingrained in our consciousness. And sometimes archetypes can be specific. Like for example, whenever I do housework, carpentry work, I tend to hit my thumb with the hammer. So the hammer has become an archetype for me as a symbol of pain.
Okay.
So Mayumi, while playing the game, sees a lot of her archetypes manifest in the game. She sees falling cars. She sees a car crash a lot of times in the game, and it represents her guilt for not calling the ambulance when her boyfriend crashed.
Yeah.
So she's experiencing the trauma, an archetypal representation of her guilt while playing the game. And she even sees Aaron the in another person, Irvin, and it's an archetype of how she's missing Aaron while playing the game. In one of the levels of Hopbound, it's even sexual if you can really look into how the graphics and sprites are drawn, it sort of implies that Mayumi misses the sexual aspect of her relationship with her ex dead boyfriend. and how
Okay.
she wishes Aaron was the man that Aaron was at the beginning of her relationship. So Hopbound has been a very psychological game, but that's exactly what I wanted to go with phase 2 of AppSir games. It's like Marvel, we're at phase 2 now.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I know like because I played Hotbound. I'm gonna try not to give too much away, but it's clear of their relationship, and then the relationship from like the beginning, where it's like honeymoon phase, and then it like continues, and like
It
things
evolves.
grow. Yeah, yeah.
And then at the end, when Mayumi achieves catharsis by confessing, which is another Jungian psychoanalytic theory, is that when we confess our
That
sins.
sounds like some Christian stuff. Maybe we
Yes,
shouldn't get into that too much. But like, I'm not so religious, but I hear
well,
confession.
it's not in a religious aspect, but us just
Correct.
acknowledging that we
Correct.
have made a mistake. Wait, why am I out of focus now? Acknowledging our mistake, it would help us achieve catharsis. Can I just get a glass of water?
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
All right.
For sure. Having personal growth. I'm going to take this time to review some questions. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to let me know. There's a lot here.
All right, I am back for my
Yeah,
lecture.
hey. All good. One second. I'm just reviewing some. We got a bunch of questions, and I think it's people. Let's see, haven't played visual novels. Questions. I have several. Darius, how do you do that cool effect on your Zoom with the background effect that's faded? I would like to know that too. How do you have the background faded, Darius? How'd you do that? Is that an option?
That's the metaphysical powers of the developer of AppSir. No, it's actually a software XSplit VCam worth $40, but I guess it's worth it. I can actually wait. Let me show you some of the code tricks that it can do. I can replace even without the green screen. I can replace my background. So it's
nice.
Thank you. I can even go to New York.
Yo,
the press of a
Manhattan Bridge. Wait, that was the Williamsburg Bridge. I'm sorry.
All right. Anyway, we're more questions?
See, the game changing in Hotbound. Is this by the weird power the game has? Is it Yana? Sometimes questions are difficult to interpret.
I get what he's trying to say. Wait.
Oh, perfect. Cause yeah, would you like to answer that question? We could talk more about archetypes and stuff, but
the Hopbound game has the tendency to transform. You can actually see that it is fluid and dynamic and has a connection with whoever plays the game. There's an unfinished AppSir game that you can play that is basically Hopbound as well, but you get to play it as a character named Will. So if you follow the rabbit hole of Easter eggs in AppSir, you get to a web page where you get to play secret AppSir games, and you can play
secret games on AppSir.com.
Yes.
Duh,
and I could release this.
Why would I even? How did I not already know that? Of course, if you got like mind bending elements in your game, of course you're gonna have that on AppSir.com. Of course.
I have some Easter eggs in Hopbound that no one has found yet. But in Dare Evil EXE, if you finish one of the unplayable games in there. You could end up going to a link, which you have to solve a puzzle there, and then you go to another link, and then you end up in a
You're not
page
making
of
it
my
easy, Darius. You're not making it
prototype.
easy. Solve a puzzle, continue the link, solve another puzzle, blood test to make sure you're a human.
Yeah,
Like,
I should put a Turing test of some sort there. Anyway, it's the same game, but it's different. So therefore, it implies that the game adjusts to whoever's playing the game. So that's the answer to your question. Any more? Or maybe I could see the questions for myself.
yeah, they're probably if on the YouTube. Next question: how did you got the connection with the family? Is it the relationship with the rotation your mother had? I don't know if you know what that means, but I
Uh,
do not.
I do. I know. In the AppSir lore, my mother was a developer as well. So, if you can recall, I released an NES game,
I remember that.
Proto Dare NES. It's from 1984. And my mother made that game in the AppSir universe. So she was part of the Rothstein Institute, which is also a part of the family. And what is the family? The family is a group that descendants of the pharaohs, all the presidents, all the rulers of the lands in all of history, and it's connected to all the pyramids that suddenly appeared at the same time in history. All that I would
And what
explore
universe is this?
the AppSir universe
This is
of
okay.
the
Yeah, just
lore.
making sure. Okay, cool, cool.
All right, not based on anything in real life. Just to clarify.
Yeah. A created universe where there's lots of things going on, and sometimes.
A history, a lore. So that any more questions before I proceed?
It looks like Sunny has a follow-up question. Why did it take 19 years for Dear and Dear Evil, question mark, Yana only appeared in 2014 in them? Happy face with the tongue.
Because these aren't just games. In the AppSir universe, there are more than games, so it would take a lot longer to make these games that aren't just games. So that's just the AppSir lore for you.
You're saying universes be complicated. There's a lot.
Universes be complicated.
Um,
Any more before we proceed?
cool. Yeah, no, I think that's good from the audience.
All right. So now we go back to you. Are there more?
Where were we? Young? Archetypes?
Yeah, young.
Rabbit holes?
Yeah. So, where were we?
So like in Hotbound, you create connections between all your games to the AppSir universe,
Yes.
where they all take place in the AppSir universe. When you first sat down and wrote the script to your games, and did you know you were creating a universe? Like when you first, but like the first game you published that had the AppSir universe, like was that? I guess I'm curious on like what your thoughts were. Did you think that you were gonna make multiple games? Did you think you were gonna make just one game? Did you even think you were making a universe, or were you just making a universe and then you were like, oh, I just made a universe? Like, yeah, I'm curious on that.
I consciously wanted to make a universe because that would make it so that whenever I release a game, they would play the other games as well. For example, when I released Hopbound, I got like a lot more daily downloads for all my other games after that. So it's a good trick because the more games I release, the more downloads the past games get, and it's a never-ending thing. Eventually, I'm gonna have a huge community, a lot bigger than the ones we have right now.
So
And
it's almost like a holistic thought pattern in how not only are you going to create your game, but a long-term marketing strategy around an awesome idea like let me create my own universe, because then every game is in essence connected to each other. So all you need to do is hook one person on one of your games, and they'll be like, yo, this AppSir universe is twisted and it's like a Black Mirror. What are the other games like? And so you just, by like, if you create a couple of games in the future, they will be in the AppSir universe and it will still tie back in to your past games. It's like, whoa. And you were just thinking about this from the
yes,
go?
yes, because I followed the Marvel formula. I figured if Marvel
I'm a
can do it,
Marvel fan. I got comic books. I got Wolverine #1. I got like all. So yeah, I could see. Okay, so influence from Marvel over, and DC's cool too. Image. There's a bunch of universes. They all have universes technically, and so you were just like, Marvel did an awesome job. I'm gonna do my own thing in my own universe that I'm creating right now. Here we go.
yes, and that's how Dare Evil EXE got big, because all the three games that preceded it already had ended in a cliffhanger that implied that a future game named Dare Evil EXE would follow up these games. So it's like I released 3 games that I got money from too, as a way to hype up the Avengers of AppSir, which is Dare Evil EXE. That's why in a few days, in like a day, I got 50,000 downloads for Dare Evil EXE right off the bat. That's the
Because
trick.
you built up an audience.
Yes.
And kind of tease them with almost like your marketing material was literally a game to point to your future game. And not only did you do that one time, you did that 3 times in 3 different games, all within the AppSir universe, because why not create your own universe? Duh. And then boom, nothing. And then massive 50,000 downloads, and then continue to get featured by Apple, like even this year probably. And
yeah, twice this year.
That's crazy. That's awesome.
So when I released Hopbound, because it's part of a larger universe, any new player that played Hopbound downloaded all my other games as well. So it's like I get 5 of my games downloaded by one person. It's really a good way of making these games. So every game I would make would always be part of the AppSir universe.
I mean, the thing that I find most fascinating is that you did this, like, I mean, was the first game you ever created, was that a part of the AppSir universe? Like, when did the AppSir universe come in? Because was it in the first game, or was the first, because I know my first game, it was little, and again, I am focusing more on hyper casual stuff because I find fascination in the simplicity of, it was literally is a dot you tap over and over again. So there's no universe or anything, but
Yes, it was in the very first game. But I retconned a lot of my earlier games because I really didn't like them
Wait,
and
I'm
I
sorry.
wanted to
You
change. So
what?
this
You
is
what?
like
Your pre?
the retcon. I retconned, made them non-canon once I
Okay,
deleted them. And
got it.
the latest iteration of this universe happened after I released Sorority Rights, a visual novel game on the app on Google Play. So there, it's always been the AppSir universe, but the
Amazing.
latest iteration started last year, I guess. 2 years ago. That's how it worked out. But it worked out pretty well. Anyway, uh,
Do
I
you have
would
any
also
tips, Darius? Do you have any tips for people out there who want to create their own universe?
their own universe. Well, first
Yeah.
off, all right, sure.
No, I just think this is such an amazing idea, concept, and the fact that I mean, everything you're saying makes sense. It's not like what you're saying is like, oh, that's ridiculous. No, it's like you've created a universe and it helps do a lot of things in terms of marketing, but it also kind of helps, like you said when we were talking about focus. You know your universe. You know that this is a Black Mirror type of universe going on. You're not making like Candyland. You're making like Black Mirror type of things because I'm assuming you enjoy this, and like you said, you like to
I do.
poke at people's feelings because
In,
we all have feelings, whether or not we realize them at certain times.
First off, um, if you can any memorable moment in our life happened because we had emotions attached to that. It's the reason why we treat these moments as memorable or special. So you have to make characters that would evoke a response, an emotional response to the players. Now, as for making the story, you have to have a base. So where did I get the base for AppSir?
I would assume
Well,
life, the greatest
life.
teacher of them all. Yeah, just like regular life for movies, Marvel comics.
Well, me,
Yes.
I've always been. Should I say this? All right. I've always been afraid of dying because I don't know what would happen when I die. So I always think that other people have these questions. And
Mm-hmm.
so it would bring about an emotional response if I start asking related questions in making my story. So while I was researching this,
This adds a lot of things up. Sorry, continue.
and it's connected to Carl Jung because Carl Jung, I know, as far as I remember, actually looked into this as well when he commented on the Tibetan Book of the Dead. Have you heard of the Tibetan Book of the Dead?
The Tibetan Book of the Dead. I've heard of the Egyptian Book of the Dead.
Yeah, from The Mummy Returns.
I mean, and the sequel
Yeah.
and the first one, but not the Tibetan one. That sounds intriguing.
Well, the Tibetan Book of the Dead has been lost for centuries. It's been hidden because the world wasn't ready for the answers that this book has. And it's only been discovered like a few hundred years ago. And it
Sounds like
only
a
got,
marketing thing.
yeah, and I'm going to use this for a future story on AppSir. So this
So
may
I'll be
clue
able to see
in.
the connection.
So it only got an English translation like this century, the past 100 years, I guess. So it answers the question, what happens when you die? And It's connected to Jungian concepts because this book says that when you die, you wouldn't know outright that you died. You would experience a version of your life that's slightly different, uncanny, and you would see symbols of your past life manifest in people, in experiences, in the trials and tribulations that you would face, sort of like archetypes. All right?
Okay, okay.
Because this is the mind, your mind experiencing death. And before that, there's a difference in how mind is defined by Western culture and Eastern culture. Western
Yes,
culture
yes.
would define mind as a like the consciousness, the brain, the thought patterns. Eastern culture defines mind as being a microcosm of the macrocosm of the universe. It's like we're part of the universal mind. Anyway, which
Darius,
is
I'm gonna need you to repeat that one more time, just so my mind can grasp
all right. It's
all the things
like
the Western
our
versus Eastern.
the Western mind is like how we define consciousness in general. But the Eastern concept of the mind is that it's it's a part of the universe. Like we are all connected to a universal mind. All right? It's like a
Okay.
microcosm of the macrocosm of
I mean,
the.
you have, and let me know if I'm missing the point here, but in you have the social consciousness, right? I look at it like individually, we all have our own consciousness, so and perspectives and things like this. But then if you take it to your local town, your community, there's a social consciousness that is shared between multiple
Yes.
people.
Like
And then you can
culture.
take that, yeah, like culture and ways of things being done and how people have, let's say, lived entire lives, lived and died doing certain social constructs and social conscious that grow to the whole blue ball planet we have here, that everyone who has ever lived has also passed away. So like into a greater consciousness of the social consciousness, and there's multiple different um, levels in terms of where perception is had. I don't even know what I'm saying right now. So
No, and I get it. I get it. It's sort of like maybe influenced the Jungian beliefs in shared consciousness and other psychological concepts after that. How they explored the esoteric nature of the Eastern mind. So anyway, what happens is we experience archetypes in the afterlife, and if we can identify
according
that
to the
we're
book.
according to the book, and if we identify that we're actually already dead, and we realize that these things that are happening to us are just symbols of our from our past life, then we can achieve catharsis and transcendence, and then we can go to become part of the universal mind again, something
I mean,
like
that
that.
makes
And
me think a lot about Buddhism and the reaching nirvana, which
yeah,
I have my own issues with that, only because anybody who ever reaches nirvana, the whole point of getting to nirvana is to get out of nirvana and help others reach nirvana. So nobody's in nirvana. I just get confused.
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah. It's
what are
confusing.
we doing here? Like, are we, because it's like a process in terms of self fulfillment and growth to a point where you don't need self fulfillment or growth, but you realize other people don't have it. So you,
Yeah,
lot
I
of
get it.
questions.
A lot of questions.
Good questions lead to more questions.
Yes, yes. And upon my pondering of my existential crisis, that's when I formed the basis of what AppSir. I knew the kind of universe I would present to the
Awesome.
world would be AppSir, where there's a game world, there's the real world, there's an alternate means of existing as a digital consciousness in the real world, and then you can create new consciousness via AI, and then it's a crazy, insane
It's deep.
concept,
Yeah.
but it's very fun, and that's what you want to do when you make your own universe. You can even adapt mythology from. I mean, superheroes come from our celebration of Greek and Roman mythologies or any concept of that, and it's a
There is
good point.
one thing that comes to my mind when you tell me all these things is that there's a saying we have here that it's like, it's so crazy, it might just work.
Yes.
And you're just like, it does work. AppSir Universe does work, does have a following. It does, like, but yeah, it's so crazy, it just might work. But yeah, so I continue. The superheroes are like a reflection of the ancient Greek, which also I'm a big fan of Greek philosophy and Greek cult, like, well, I don't know about like maybe the culture, but like historical context and stuff like that. So, and those are archetypes.
Yes, the hero archetype as well. And to follow up on Al's observation about this thing is so crazy it might just work. Just remember that the people who change the world are only those insane enough to believe that they can. So don't be afraid to go big, to go bold.
R.I.P. Steve Jobs. I feel
If you
like he said
can,
something like that.
yeah, and you have to stand out from a sea in the context of game development. You have to stand out. So why not be a little bit crazier with your concepts? Don't just be another clone in the app store. Sure, it's trending right now. Why can't you create your own trends? Right?
Well,
Don't.
that's what, like, what you're saying is something I wholeheartedly agree with, because I think there is a mass consumption of just trying to make a clone or something. And I want to say that I think that makes sense. I think it's a good beginning, but don't let that be the story,
Yes.
because everyone starts somewhere. And like, to me, when it comes to clones, I don't know if you know this, Darius, but I am a clone. I have another person out there who has the exact same genetics.
Yeah, I remember.
So the thing, and I see this, and this is how I see the world because I am a clone, is that he is not me and I am not him, because we have our own personalities. And the things people tell me every single day is, I'm so surprised that you two are completely different people. And I'm like, yeah, just because we have a lot of things that someone who cannot tell the difference won't be able to know that we're not the same person, more or less. That doesn't change the fact that we are completely different. So when I look at games that are done in like a cloning fashion, I look for that, like, is there something that is complete, like, that makes it not the another game, even though it may look like it? Like, is there an element, like whether or not a deeper universe of Black Mirror stuff going on everywhere? Like, is because someone could see, Hopbound and be like, oh, this is just a platform game.
Yeah, clone of Mario.
Yeah, okay, so you move around really fast. I've played this game. Like, they won't know just by looking at it, just by looking at the gameplay of like a 30-second trailer. I mean, technically your trailers are really good, but if they just saw like a 30-second gameplay of the game, they wouldn't know of the deep universe.
Yeah.
So
Then
it's like,
that's what I use to my advantage as well, because I subvert expectations. If you look and read the
Beautifully.
reviews of my
Do it
games.
beautifully.
They downloaded it expecting a normal platformer, a normal endless runner, and then
Your
they get
system.
punched in the face with lore and story and characters and surprise endings, twist
And they're
endings.
invested. And they're invested.
Yeah.
And they want to know what happens next, and then what happens next.
Yes, and they want to know what happened in the previous games, which means I get 5 times the downloads than if I didn't have a universe, I would always be starting from scratch. That's the thing. At
Yeah.
least now I could just release a game and then they would download all my games as well. So it's a never-ending cycle.
Yeah,
Of my
that's great. And it sounds like you had that from the inception to have the forethought of like where you want to go. Because I think it's very difficult, right? When you try to plan the future, if you will, in a way that what you start in your game to have that consistent in a game that you release 2 years from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now. But to do that in the first game and have that concept is exactly like you said. This is so crazy. It just might work, but you gotta do that. Like, you know, when you were having your government job, you gotta write that story. You gotta like put it out there. And
if
awesome.
if it didn't work, I would still be proud of it because I know there would be like 2-3 people that would really be into what I was trying to make. So I'm just surprised it did well, and now doesn't change much with regards to my plans. But I'll ensure that I'll never disappoint you guys. I'll always release can't miss, must play games that you would never forget. So you always download my games because the only regret you would have is that you didn't download them sooner. So if you haven't downloaded my games right now, you better start doing it right now while you're watching this live stream. And I promise I will never disappoint.
Yeah, it's on the App Store, it's on the Play Store, it's even on Steam. And like
Yes.
that's the cool thing because like I haven't even like the process that it goes through that you have to go through to like release on Steam, is that a difficult one? Or like how
Yes. Well,
so many questions.
in the old days, you have to go through Steam Greenlight.
Yeah.
So people would vote on your game so they can be included in Steam. Now they open the floodgates and anyone can publish on Steam with just $100 per game, which is very expensive. That's a
Yeah.
year's
Yeah.
worth of membership for App Store. And then the process of uploading a game on Steam is by itself a big headache. You have
But
to
you can
learn
do it with
certain
Buildox.
commands. You can do
You
it with
use
Buildbox, yes. Just
it's
an
cool.
exe file is all you need. But then you have to learn these commands. It's a CMD type of thing where you
Yeah.
upload type commands so they can process your game. It's very
You gotta use a terminal, it sounds like.
yes,
No.
yes. It's very old school to do that. And it takes a while for it to get approved and then you have to at least wait 2 more weeks after it got approved before it gets to be available on Steam. So it's a lot of it could be an easier process, but I guess it weeds out the bad developers from the good ones.
Yeah. I know,
Maybe.
I know I still need to update like screenshots on the App Store. Like I don't even want to do that. So like the idea of going through a command line to like input to Steam, but the audience, like you can reach a huge audience on Steam as well.
Not really. Not as much as on the App Store. Because I think there are more games on Steam than the mobile market right now. I'm guessing it's very
Interesting.
crowded and flooded. I think.
Yeah.
Oh wait, just a sec.
For
Just a
sure.
sec.
For sure. Cool. All right, if there's any questions or things that you guys would like to know, hey, what's up, Seb? Hey, Code Meyer, welcome. Oh, we got some more questions. And sub praise of games. Welcome back. I hope you guys are enjoying this game dev experience. I thought it would be fun to do something different. Oh, hey, what's up? I was just talking to the audience and letting them know that, I am doing this kind of, I don't know if this is a podcast or like live stream of just, being able to pick your brain and get insights into how the AppSir universe came into being, and for me, taking a break from making games, because making and playing games is it's a lot of work, and so this is just, I don't know about you, Darius, but I'm enjoying this conversation. Like, I spent 3 hours trying to get like a UI icon to do what I wanted, and this is so much more fun than like hit my head up against the wall trying to get things to work. So it's just nice to.
It's been fun as well. Because of the circumstances that we've been facing right now, this is the only social interaction that I've had for the last couple 2 days.
Yeah. No, I'm the same way. I'm here. Darius is in the Philippines, and I'm here in Kentucky, in the United States, and like, I don't leave the house. I have to meet up with a good friend later today, and I don't even know how I'm going to do that. Like, do I wear a mask? Because I don't want him to, like, he's just been around, like, so I don't want COVID. I don't want my mom to get COVID. Like, I don't even know exactly how we're going to do this, but I have to see him because it's been 5 years, and when you just have like your really good friends, but like, I'm sure we'll figure it out. But yeah, COVID's been weird, that's for sure. Oh, there's actually 2 more. We have some more questions for you that I hope you can maybe take a look at. Okay, so question from Sunny Cast. The visual novels are not canon games in the AppSir universe.
Yeah.
Right?
Yes. The only canon games in the AppSir universe are the pixel art games like Dere, Protodere, Hopbound. The visual novels are just our peek into what happens in the AppSir universe, but they're not games in the AppSir universe. Does it make sense for the casual audience out there?
Yeah, if it doesn't make sense, just ask a question. Let me know. To me, it makes sense. You're saying it's like a visual novel that kind of points to the AppSir universe, but may not necessarily be the AppSir universe in itself.
No. So there, let's put it in the context of Marvel comics. The Marvel comics are not comics in the Marvel universe. Does it make sense? That's what they're asking. They're asking if the visual novels are also visual novels in the AppSir universe, and it's not.
Got it. All right. Got it. And then, did you confirm that Yana and Miles / the ones that died in the Tried Nemesis are digital copies?
There's a process.
Okay, yes.
They are in itself copies, because if the physical body of Yana survived, then there would be a digital version of her, and then an alternate physical version of her that would exist in the real world. It sort of is what happened to Mayumi in the prologue of Hopbound, she got face to face with the Trinemesis, which is what converts these people into digital versions of themselves. Luckily, she fell off a ditch, and then you have.
I mean, Darius, I would like to put my input as an identical twin. It's like they were copies, but then the second they're each their own, then
Yes.
things seem to develop. But if you trace the lineage, if you will, at one point in time,
they
were the same. But the second after that was no longer the case, they were there each individual. You could say one may be the OG original and the other maybe like a version 1.0 or something. I don't know, but that's defined by who's ever doing the defining
conversion. Yeah.
Yeah.
So at one point they just went off tangent, but it doesn't mean that the digital version of Yana is any less. He could argue that
it's to be determined by the person whoever.
Yeah, that's to be determined by the person. I'm sorry.
Because you like, I think it goes to a deeper question. Like we said, good questions lead to more questions. And this is one of those. Like, that's a really good question. Here's the answer plus 5 more questions. Like,
yeah.
There's a really good book. It's called like We Are Bob, and it's literally about this guy who gets his brain into a computer, and then he has to travel, and he's like a spaceship. He's a computer spaceship, but his mind comes from a human being, and basically he's in space and he has to clone himself and make multiple versions of himself to explore space.
Oh.
So it's like this is an entirely another universe, but it's got that link.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, it's called We Are Bob.
We Are Bob.
Yeah, I think they changed the name because they were like, We Are Bob. It's not like nobody wants to see
children's book.
Yeah, but they have like 5 books. It's really good, and but it has that concept as well. Let's see. Let's look at some questions. Penelope asked, did we discuss about future games? I'm not sure if you want to talk about future games. I think I was kind of subconsciously trying to avoid that just in case it might be like giving away stuff. But if you want to address that, would you like to address that for a little bit?
I'm making 2 games right now. One would be released for App Store and Google Play, and the other would be exclusive to Steam and Cartridge and GameJolt. So yeah, that's all I can say right now. But it's not a platformer game, so that it won't be a visual novel as well. The mobile game won't be a platformer or a visual novel, and so it's a new concept for the AppSir universe, and I can't wait to show you. That's all I'm gonna say.
Cool. Darius, Juan Leon has a question. Your new game, was it made in Buildbox 2 or Buildbox 3? And then I was also hoping maybe you could talk about what it was like creating these games in Buildbox. And I'll be right back, but maybe you can discuss while I'm away.
Yeah, sure. So I'm using Buildbox 2 right now, but I used to use Unity and Game Salad. If you know about the first platformer game I released, Hyper Glitch Fortress, it was made in Game Salad. And then I made games with GameMaker as well, GameMaker Click Team, and that's about it. But in telling the story of the AppSir universe, I'd rather just use Buildbox because it's the easiest engine for me. It's like, why would I use Unreal Engine if I'm just making a platformer game like Dare, right? So why would I go with the bloated engines when I can use Buildbox and Buildbox too? So that's to answer a question. And for the next games, I would still be utilizing Buildbox too. But Dare Vengeance, which is the one of the biggest games we'll be releasing later down the line, would be made with Buildbox 3. I'm just waiting for more optimizations possibly, and I have to finish a few more games before that. But Buildbox 2 is my first love. I really didn't like using the other engines, but I did release games with them.
How did you yeah, I know I just always want to state that there's so many game engines out there, and if possible, dabble in as many as you can, because it also, it's like, what kind of game do you want to make, right? And like certain things you can do are easier in some engines versus other engines. And but yeah, I know I tried I think it was Game Salad, or it was Game Salad, and that was early on for me, but I had a lot of difficulties. And I know when I got into Buildbox 2, it was still the same difficulties, but I was able to like persevere. Like I was able to see the light at the end of the tunnel with Buildbox 2, whereas in Game Salad and Unity was like, you're in a tunnel.
What makes Buildbox 2? Another reason why I stuck with Buildbox 2 is there's a good sense of community within the game, within the game devs. And there's a forum where a lot of people are active. Before, there was a Discord, and I learned a lot from these forums. I learned from Christoph, shout out to you. I learned from Jonathan Benfont. I learned from Sam Hardy and Seb and a lot of people. And I got to be friends with Zach before he became part of the Buildbox team. Zach actually...
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's the origin story of Zach. Zach wanted to publish a game with me for some reason, even though I never got featured by Apple by that time.
I mean, that's cool. It's more cool to be like, yo, let's work together before like our feature, because then, in my opinion, you're not doing it for the feature, you're doing it for the game creation. Not that it's wrong, but it's like the heart of it is to create something. It's not to be recognized for the create. Like when you make something, you don't know what's gonna happen. You do it because how could you not do it? Like,
yeah, you have to have fulfillment in the product itself, not what the product can do for you. And that's when you've made something good. Is you feel fulfilled and satisfied just finishing this game. And it was during this time, early days of me as a developer, that Zach had a very long message for me, telling me he sees potential in me, and he wants to make a game of his own, and we helped each other out. We made a game I forgot the name of. And this was months before he got the opportunity to work with the Buildbox team. So when he got into Buildbox, I had a man on the inside. And yeah, but however, so me and Zach had this friendship as he's a lot busier now because he does all these live streams. But at the very start of Buildbox, his involvement in Buildbox, it made me realize I should really stick with Buildbox because I want to support Zach, and I have all these friends here, and it's a good engine. By the way, it's a very good engine. So why switch, right? And I really like the support Buildbox now has for me. I mean, to be frank,
do you reach out to support often? Or
no. Actually, when at the very beginning of my journey for AppSir, I didn't get much support from Buildbox. Even with their EvilEX, it didn't get as much support as I did now with Buildbox, because I guess they're all promoting, which I understand because that's the demographic Buildbox is after. They want to promote hyper casual games
Yeah,
back
yeah, yeah.
then, and
Yeah, I'm a big fan
now.
of hyper casual games.
And I know their Evil EXE wasn't a hyper casual game, and even in the when they made the new version of the Buildbox website, it wasn't really one of the showcase games. I know Crevasse as a game there, Sev,
Process,
and
yeah, yeah,
whatever.
yeah,
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 yeah.
yeah. He's
But
got a bunch.
but Zach really wanted to go to the Philippines because he thought uh I was one of the best developers in the Buildbox community for some reason, and he just wanted to experience life here in the Philippines. So he spent a week here, and I can't really say what kind of parties we went through while he was here. And he said, according to him, one of the best vacations he's ever had was when he went to the Philippines. And he made a video vlog of his visit to the Philippines. And so that's one of the first times their EvilEX really got showcased by the Buildbox forum. And then like years, I think even a few months or after Jay-Z became the head
Yeah,
of
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Buildbox,
yeah.
is only the time when he discovered that their EvilEX existed. So
Yeah.
he messaged me, and it was something I'm very grateful for. He said he was inspired by the game, and this is the kinds of developers that he gets motivated by. And then
Yeah,
I
yeah.
really appreciate JC and the Buildbox community for always sharing the stuff I make on Twitter and on social, and that's more reason why I would want to be loyal to Buildbox. But doesn't mean that I would
Did you use Buildbox One? I I
no
I could
no.
okay, because I've seen like videos and pictures and like yeah, so I was just curious because I also started out with Buildbox 2 and I think it's a I think Buildbox 2 is so much easier and friendly compared to Buildbox 3, but I see them as completely different beasts, because like Buildbox
They're
3,
different engines.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I would I still prefer working with Buildbox 2. I have been trying a lot of stuff with Buildbox 3, but I would prefer BB2 for now. But when I make the 3D The Revengeance, I think by then I'd be a master of BB3. I have to be. because,
Wait, a
so I'm
master
gonna
of
watch a
what?
lot of Alcox's tutorials for BB3 and watch him play around with the engine so I can learn BB3 and then eventually make a game out of it. So
But to me, Buildbox 3 is just it's a process. It's like trying to just yeah. There's so much. Like in Buildbox 2, you here are the things you can use to make. And that's one of the things I really like about Buildbox 2 is because like I think within limitations is where ingenuity and
yes.
creativity and storytelling and like these are things that I understand from the games that I played that you put out. So and these are the things that I've always thought, you know, are helpful. So anytime because people are always complaining about something.
Yeah.
And so it's
No one's
like,
ever satisfied, especially when they're
yeah,
even when the software went free, they'll always find a way to complain, and
yeah,
that's
yeah.
normal human nature.
Yeah,
That's why
I would
every
even say
president.
game dev. Like if you're trying to like make a game developer happy, like that's a really difficult job to do.
Yeah, especially we never know what kind of games people would be making with the engine. So we would have we can we have to be all knowing and see every possibility in order to make something that would truly cater to the needs of every developer out there. And there are games in Buildbox too that I think came out of ingenuity. Like for example, Force. What's that game where you have the balloon?
Oh, you're talking about Rise Up. Luckily,
Rise Up.
Darius,
Yeah, I think
My
that
mind and the knowledge of all the games I've played over the years is, for whatever reason, fresh. You're talking
encyclopedia.
about Forced Up. Okay, and
Yeah,
since we're not
Rise Up.
affiliated,
Oh, it's a yeah, and then games like Logi and then Vika, the games Crevasse and Vicas are making. I don't think they are. I don't think the developers of Buildbox had this in mind when they were making the engine at first. But these developers are genius in creating new concepts, and I think part of that is because they were limited by Buildbox, so they had to make workarounds, and then in the end they were able to make
Exactly.
unique games I don't think anyone would have thought of by using other engines. So that's the thing.
I mean, there's always a lot from what I hear or heard on the internet, like Rise Up, which is a phenomenal success, and from what I heard, it was built with the crack version of the
Oh,
box, and then like let's give homage and mad respect to its influence of Forced Escape, which was actually
Forced
like my Forced Escape, which was the first game review I did on this channel like 3 years ago. And it's interesting because that game, very well done, except for a balloon floating up to the top. It was like a spaceship. So I'm a sci-fi guy. I like it better, but obviously balloons are more mass appealing to a general audience.
yes, because yeah, it's
Yeah.
it's the little things that would separate you from being a success and being a massive success. The balloon is is one of those things because it appeals to a wider
$100,
culture.
$100 million. Like, what's the difference? A
The
balloon. Yeah.
balloon, yeah, it's very interesting to look into how things end up. Anyway, I'll be back. I just have to go
Yeah.
on
Yeah. Yeah.
to the comfort room for a little while.
Yeah. Take your time. I'm gonna engage with the audience and see if I can't help answer some questions. If you guys have any other questions, now is a really good time. I'm not sure how much longer we're gonna go, but hopefully, is this set to? Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, but just it's good to talk about Buildbox. Darius uses Buildbox, I use Buildbox, but I always want to stipulate that there's like lots of engines out there, and then Unity is like the king of kings when it comes to mobile games. But let's see, what do we have? Did you discuss about future games? I feel like that was questions there. Darius, your new game, Buildbox 2 or 3. Okay, we answered that one. A more common one. How much reviews affect your future games? We'll save that for when Darius gets back. Praise of game. Answer this theory. Are we programmed to not know that we're in a matrix or game? So, praise of games. I think that's a fun question, and I say this as it being a fun question because I think Elon Musk thinks something of this nature. Of the idea is humans and technology will eventually someday advance so far that you'll be able to be in a simulated reality, and the technology is so amazing that you won't know that you're in a simulated reality. That being said, if that is a hypothetical possible future reality, what are the odds that it's not already true? And so that just gets into like deep questions. I don't even know, so it's just a mind bend question. A good question gets more questions as answers. In every game, Codemeyer has a question. In every game dev life, there is a phase where she doesn't get any ideas or can't focus properly. Do you guys have any tricks to tackle that situation? Oh, that is a great question, Codemeyer. Thank you for that question. I will ask Darius when he gets back. Please answer my theory above. I mean, the theory is a theory, and so the question begets more questions in terms of whether or not we are in a hypothetical matrix type reality. And for me, it's like there is literally no way to, or maybe there is, but that would take like a life's journey to try to answer such a question like that. Like that's a question that can be answered by somebody spending a lifetime on that, in my opinion. And so, for the game, so asking the question, what's your name and how do we get details on your upcoming release? Hey, Darius. Yeah. We have a question. You know what? I suspect it's for you. And what is your name, Darius? And
Darius.
How can we get detail on your upcoming release?
Well, first off, if you're asking for my name because you want my social media accounts, I deactivated my Facebook and Instagram. So you can only find me on Twitter. It's at Darius Guerrero. Or you can follow AppSir's Twitter at AppSir Games. So you can find more about what next games we're going to release. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel because whenever I put a new video out, it's either a trailer or an announcement. So that's the best place you can get the latest updates of what AppSir is working on. And the next video I'm gonna put out there is a trailer for the next game. So better watch and out.
Is that trailer coming soon? Later? 2020? 2021?
Well, for sure it's going to come within the next two games would arrive in the next few months. Before the last quarter of the year, for sure, there would be two more games in the AppSir universe. Two big games.
So, Darius, do you find you have a lot of time on your hands lately because of COVID?
Yes, it helped a lot because if you can tell by Zach's visit to the Philippines, I am not the stereotypical computer guy that spends a lot of time just sitting in front of the computer because I am a really extroverted social person. So I spend many nights outside.
Really? Nice.
Having parties with my friends. And
to be young.
And I want to be forever young, And with the circumstances that we have right now, I'm stuck at home and I have to do something because if I don't do something, it's killing me. I hate being bored. I hate being just sitting around doing nothing. So I would use my energies into making games. So I guess it helped the AppSir universe, but I don't have the balance now. So there are days when I'm really yearning for social interaction, I guess. So I guess it helped.
Yeah. I think especially if you're like extroverted, these times gotta be it's like compounded. I consider myself like extrovert, introvert. I think I can be like an amazing extrovert and like everybody like, oh, they want to hang out with me. But like, if I could, I would just be an introvert. Like I haven't left this house in 2 months. I've left it like maybe 5 times. Like I got every, as long as I have the internet, then I can
Thank
make
goodness
games.
this thing happened with the internet already existing. If this thing happened in the 90s, I think people would have been super bored and
No, I mean, I think the human resilience is always going to
overcome.
impress.
Yes.
Yeah, always. And there will be points where it's a lot more difficult. And the biggest difficult part is to see and to understand oneself that you'll be able to grow, that you will learn. Because I think when crappy things are happening to you at the moment, all you see is the crappy things, like how you can't go outside to a bar or whatever. But it long term has like a big effect to make you appreciate that more and to like, I mean, it's like a 100-year pandemic thing. Like this doesn't happen all the time. Like,
yeah.
So yeah, but anyways, sorry, a little sobering, I guess. We have some
And
more
always
questions.
Overcome, improvise, and overcome, whatever.
Yeah,
Let's see the next question.
Never underestimate the ability, your ability or human beings' ability to be adaptable, and that's the thing. Is it's not easy, but you kind of have to do it now.
Growing pains.
Yeah, like a growing pains. That's a great way to put it. CodeMaya had a really cool question that I liked. In every game dev life, there is a phase where she doesn't get any ideas or can't focus properly. Do you have any tricks to tackle that situation?
Sure. If you have seen Mad Men, how about you, Al? Have you seen Mad Men?
Yeah. Season 1, season 2, I kind of lost interest after that. But,
gets better as the seasons go on. I think my favorite is season 5 or season 4 and 5. Anyway, Don Draper, the creative genius of Sterling Draper Price, gave a good advice whenever you're feeling a creative or writer's block or whatever. Don says you have to think about it very deeply. The deepest you can go.
Think
And
about
then-
it?
Yeah, whatever
about what?
you're working on. If you're
Okay.
having a writer's block, game dev block, or whatever, think about that deeply. And then just forget about it. Do something else. And Don Draper has been known to disappear for weeks from his job. And then while
And his
doing this
family.
something else, an idea will come to you. And then you come back even better and more motivated because you miss doing this thing. And that's how you overcome creative block. Don't force
Love
it.
Love it. Yeah, I think I do something similar, and in my mind, and I've been doing this a lot more specifically because of COVID, and there's just like all these things running through my head, but it's just like meditating more. And when I agree with what you and Don Draper said, because like when the human mind is always going. Even when you're sleeping, the human mind is going. So like for me, like, and I've been doing this more frequently where I just like meditate for 30 minutes and I just like try to literally think of nothing. Like my focus is usually focused on my breath and I'm thinking of like either a white ball or a black ball in like a sea of nothingness. And then I set my Alexa timer for like 30 minutes and then I just, and I find that like my mind goes all over the place, but moments you can like focus it helps your mind like relax, and then and it's a conscious effort. It's like you have to be conscious to not be conscious.
Good way to put it.
Yeah, because like
it's like your mind is entangled by a lot of thought. You have to relax, let it untangle, and then an idea would come to you as you're thinking of nothing. That's a good way to put it.
Yeah, and an idea will come or it'll not come or like life will go on, but like you just it kind of helps you get into the flow. And the whole thing of like what Don Draper said, like take a break.
Yeah.
I stress that all the time. Like I'm like when I need a break, and I almost feel like this live stream is like kind of a break. Is literally this talking to you for me is like a break from
I'm glad.
making my game, because I've been like polishing for the last 2 weeks, and I just feel like you criticize yourself when you make your own game so much, and taking a break from it gives you the space to breathe. But
you avoid burnout if you take breaks at strategic moments in your development process.
What are some things you do to help avoid burnout? Because to me, it's clear you're conscious about your mental psychology, probably because you're just more aware. But like, what are some things you do to help avoid burnout?
Well, before these circumstances that we have right now, of course, I spend a lot of weekends with my friends, or just I take a break, just like Don said, and
just take a break. Yeah, I love it.
With this, with how we are at right now, I guess my biggest breaks are in the form of watching mindless blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
I don't care if it has I don't care if it has a 3 out of 10 for Rotten Tomatoes. That's exactly what I want right now.
wait. You look for the 3 out of 10. You're like, this has got 2 Rotten Tomatoes. This is what I want.
That's what I want.
This is gonna let my
the
mind
movies that
breathe.
critics hate. Yeah. Don't care if the plot is stupid. That's what I want for my
I
brain
want a
right
stupid
now.
plot.
Yeah.
My game plot is so in depth. I need to watch simple plots.
That's how I do it. Not gonna say the names of the movies though, because I don't want to crash on them any more than they already have. Have had.
Yeah, no, I definitely like Netflix and like Amazon Prime. I've been going through all those as well. I think everybody has, right? Like it's just everyone's stuck at home trying to like make sense of the world. Let's see. I think that was ask that question. What's your name? Am I just going through these questions again? Somebody, Darius. This I like this question, Darius. Do you think Buildbox 2 will get enough updates over the years to worth still making games in it?
Yes. I think Buildbox 2 would have the same permanence as Buildbox 3. We've seen them just recently released an update to comply with the App Store's not the 64-bit requirement, but the App Store requiring that there would be no UI web view statements in the Xcode project. They have also updated it to include a storyboard launch screen for the games. And they did it just in time. And it shows that they still think about Buildbox 2 users. And it's been 2 years since Buildbox 3. So I don't think that's going away for a long time. And they know. I know some Buildbox staff may be watching right now. They know that a big part of the Buildbox community, maybe.
I just assume no one's watching. That way, if someone's watching, I'm like, oh my God, that's amazing.
I can't see the audience at all, but I'm gonna ensure this message comes we'll get to the Buildbox staff. I know that the Buildbox community in large has been seduced. What's that's the wrong term. See,
Influenced?
no, they got the they wanted to join the Buildbox community because they've seen what Buildbox 2 is. That's a big part of the Buildbox community. They saw that Buildbox 2 is very simple. It seems almost PowerPoint like, and it's the reason it's this mass appeal that Buildbox 2 has. That has
Buildbox 2 has massive appeal. I think
more-
they have
more appeal than Buildbox 3. I have to agree on that because Buildbox 3.
I think Buildbox 2 has a more massive appeal than Buildbox realizes themselves. That's what I think.
Yes. And to ensure the continuing success and growth of the community would be to ensure the availability of Buildbox 2. Another reason why I think Buildbox 2 would be a permanent fixture in the AOB lineup of software is if Buildbox 2 can't be updated, I can't update my games anymore. And I will protest and I will do anything to ensure that I get to update my games because if I am not taking anything away from Buildbox 3 users because they are basically the same people. But a lot of the game of the day and Apple featured top 100 games, most of these Buildbox games that got this accolade are made with Buildbox 2. And I can only remember, even this year, Donuts Delivery was made with Buildbox 2. Christoph got featured as well.
There might only be one Buildbox 3 game. I pay attention to all these things.
Yeah.
So like
only Crevasse's, I'm not sure. Even Crevasse's halfway game was made with Buildbox 2. And it got featured and Hopbound and
special shout out to Railway Cannon. I still got. I play
that's the Buildbox 3 game that got featured.
It's the first that I can recall.
I think it's the first. I'm not really sure, but I guess it's the first. But
might be the second or third.
Game might have been featured because Crevasse has made a reputation of making great games with Buildbox 2. So it's a big factor that he developed this good relationship with Apple because he was making awesome BB2 games.
He's like a genius from what I can tell. He like uses the Unreal, Unity. Like I have trouble with UI objects in Buildbox and he's like using Unreal and like connecting the nodes and I'm like, whoa, I'm a fool. Why do I even get out of bed? But I still do. But I think that's a good question when it comes to Buildbox too, because like I've always liked Buildbox 2 and I don't even know if you've seen, but I've had like videos in the past on my YouTube channel where I'm like, will they even update Buildbox 2.3.9? Because I think I didn't even think they were going to, and the fact, and you've updated it. Obviously, Hopbound was probably released with the latest version of Buildbox 2.3.10, or I don't even know.
2.3.10. Yeah. I can say with confidence they would continually update that because if they don't, it would put at risk a lot of the featured showcased games by Buildbox, being that most of them are made with BB2. And if you can update to comply with AppSir,
they
would disappear.
I don't think they would. I think they would still market them because it's good marketing material, and they would literally just say you could remake this game in Buildbox 2 or something. Just like business marketing things. I like Buildbox 2. I think Buildbox 2 has like just a bigger, massive appeal to anybody who wanted to make a game. Like if you don't know how to make games and you want to make a game, simple game in like a week and you've never done it, like you could do it with Buildbox 2. And learn and grow from there. Like that could be your starting off point because
and then eventually cross over to Buildbox 3. Now, what's the danger?
If you want.
If
It's
you
up to
want.
everyone.
Yeah. Now, the danger with Buildbox 3, no, not the danger, but on a possibility. If you start off with Buildbox 3, being it's your first time making a game, you could go crazy because you have access to a lot of features. You could
It's
get
overwhelming.
overwhelmed. Yeah.
Yeah.
And even when after making the game, you would have to think, oh no, I didn't optimize the poly count of my objects. Oh no, I
Right. This
didn't
object doesn't
consider.
need a shadow.
Yeah, I have to remove the shadows and everything. And if you started with Buildbox 2 and you're limited to 2D games, you would more likely succeed in finishing a playable game, and it would make you addicted to the rush, to the ender to the feeling of releasing a game. So
All of it. It's a process.
it's a process. So you start with BB2. Hopefully that's the way people are going about it.
Yeah, I liked. For me, I was like super resistant to go to Buildbox 3 because I just had so much fun with Buildbox 2. I was using it for 2 years. I knew how to like make a game. I think at one point I was living in Los Angeles and I like challenged myself to make a game in a day or something. And I was able to make like, it wasn't even a good game, but like, you know, you got to challenge yourself. Otherwise, what are you doing? And then Buildbox 3, there was a game called Picker 3D. I don't know if you know Picker 3D, but basically somebody, and I can't remember the details now, but they were using Buildbox 3 when it first came out, and it was like super buggy.
I remember that.
It was really buggy, but they were able to make a prototype, and then Rolik Publishing reached out to them, and then they remade the game in Unity because this is a common practice, and then #1 on the App Store. And it's like, that's when I was like, okay, I need to get in the trenches. Because it's like to me, it's like being in the trenches. It's like Modern Warfare, except I'm trying to make a game. And for some reason, when my character dies, it goes to the next level, and I don't know why. So, yeah. But so you're gonna eventually. Have you been playing with Buildbox 3?
Yes. Yeah. I've been playing around with the templates and even the templates that I see on the forums on Discord. I know App Nasty has made some prototypes that I can play around with, and I have been playing around with some stuff. But for my next 2 projects, it's all BB2, so I'm going to go back focusing on that.
Nice. Yeah, Buildbox 2 is just so. It's just a lot of fun, and then once you learn the kinks, then you can just, you
can do anything. I can't even wrap my mind around how Vikas made donuts delivery with Buildbox 2. I was really impressed. I thought it was a BB3 game, but freaking genius, that guy.
So just in case someone in the audience is unaware, Donuts Delivery is a recent game built by someone named Vikas, created with Buildbox 2. Beautiful game. If you want to see some gameplay footage, I have some on my channel. And that is actually a game where I played up to like level 50, and then my game crashed, or my phone didn't save it, and I was like,
he has implemented cloud saving. I don't know how he did it. And now he says he's making a multiplayer version of it with Buildbox. Like, what?
What? Really?
Yeah. A multiplayer component to Donuts Delivery. I don't really... Freaking genius.
I know, I'm pretty sure he does. He has, he it's not just him, it's a team. And there's someone that I think they make changes within Xcode to make the UI transitions within, like, So now I'm just like talking about stuff I don't even know, but basically it gets in the code because like once you create a BBdoc file, you then have to put it through
converts
Xcode.
into Xcode.
Yeah.
And you can make a lot of changes. I remember I've been trying to play
really?
around with haptic feedback, including haptic feedback into the vibrations for the Evil EXE using Xcode, and it's really hard. And I figured, I'll not include this because for every update I'd have to look into the coding of Xcode, of the Xcode project. I'm not gonna do this.
Yeah, no, stuff like that scares me, Darius. It scares me. I'm like, this is why I use Buildbox. I don't know this code.
Yeah.
JavaScript. Yeah, I don't like. For me, coding is super difficult because I don't want to do it. But you know, that's I'm sure eventually certain pieces will help. Like you learn little by little. Let's see what other. I think I had some more questions. See, what advice would you give to new game devs out there who feel like they're struggling? And I know personally, people ask me a lot of questions, and I try to do my best to help, but most of the time, I know I could do better. But like, what advice would you give to someone who's a new developer who's struggling?
Well, first off, you have to realize that any challenge put in front of you can be done. If another person was able to do it, you can do it as well. All you need is the tenacity and the temerity that you can do it, the audacity and moxie of a person to believe that they can do it. And if it's in terms of being the technical aspect of making a game, you can always find unlimited resources for making your game. You can either look for tutorials, you can look for templates, you can look for forum posts to figure out what you're exactly trying to do, and you can even ask the help of other game developers, because if there's something about the game dev community, it's that even though everyone is really competing with each other, there's just thousands of games being released per day that it doesn't really mean much to compete with other game devs. So I think you will always find someone who can give you advice, who can help you. And if it's your very, very, very first game, you always have to start small. Don't be expecting that you will be making the next PUBG, the next Fortnite, the next Overwatch, the next...
I think there is some of that out there. Some people
Yeah.
are like, how do I make a multiplayer first-person shooter that does this? And it's like, how many games have you made? And like, oh, I don't know how to make a game. And
it's not gonna work out because these games have been made by industry veterans and a team of 30 to 50 to 100 people. So always start small because it's feasible. And once you start with making this first game, you're gonna get an idea of how the industry works. So let's say you made a what would be an endless game for your first game, and you get to release it on the App Store.
yeah.
And you will realize that your first game would be a failure for sure because you didn't have much idea of how marketing works and how everything works. Now imagine if you have made worked 3 years on your first game and released it on these stores. It would crush you more because most of the time, 99.9% of the time, your first game would be a failure, no matter how much.
And wait, let's be clear. I think when it comes to it being a failure, It's a failure in terms of
download
becoming
counts,
a viral sensation, and you got
yeah.
10 million downloads, and now you don't have to do anything because your game just got 10 million. Like, in terms of that, if your expectations of your first game is to be a blowout hit, then yes, failure will likely ensue.
Yeah.
Which is not to say, like, I know people, Darius, who have made games with Buildbox, spent 7 months trying to get a publisher to publish it with Buildbox 2. This is like maybe 2 years or 3, I don't even know. But game got remade in Unity, reached #1 on the App Store, but then like horrible publishing deal. So like,
a slave contract of a publishing.
I think it was something along the lines that the cost to remake the game in Unity will be paid for by the first month's revenue of that game, in which that game then got #1 on the App Store. Therefore, basically it costs like a lot of money to make a game in Unity, but not as much as it should. So
I get it.
Expectations of, here's what I got. Start small, believe in yourself, do research, and
manage your expectations. Yes, I forgot to mention, usually when we enter this industry, some of us are imagining that we'd be like, most of the time people would be imagining that the old adage of build it and they will come would happen.
Build the dreams. Build the dreams, Kevin Costner.
Yeah, and it won't be like that most of the time. So manage your expectations. I guess what Al was trying to say is that you define your success in a realistic manner and how it would be attainable. I guess you have to be tough.
What are you? I think toughness comes in time for sure. Like one of the things that I reflect on in my life is like living in San Francisco and then living in New York City, right? So San Francisco is a very like nice, everyone's like very politically correct. It's a nice place, but New York City is not a nice place. New York City makes, in my opinion, your skin tougher, thicker, because it's like it's almost chaos that makes sense. What are your thoughts when it comes to failure and making mistakes and learning from those processes?
All right. Well, first off, of course, in terms of the potential viral success of your game, it might fail to live up to the best version of the situation wherein it would go viral, everyone would play your game, because you have to consider that more than 1,000 games are being uploaded to the App Store every day. That's how every day.
Yeah. I need to see that number. Is that true?
Yeah. I've seen it somewhere years back, so it might be even bigger now.
Yeah.
So the likelihood of success is like 0.1% that you would be one of those featured games out there. That's how big of a sea of competition you're facing whenever you're releasing a game. And then, wait, I got lost. What was the question
again? How do you tackle things like failure, mistakes? Because when obviously you're building out a game, let's say you're trying to make something happen that you want, that you created in the AppSir universe, and you're trying to make that happen, but you're failing. It's almost like it's a feature or something. I don't know.
All right. So you have to, however you define your success is, and however you define failure, be prepared to fail, because a lot of the big legends that we have in the world right now have failed hundreds and thousands of times. You know, Thomas Edison with the creation of the light bulb, we have failed like 1,000 times. And if he had given up, we wouldn't have this right now. And we know
Shout out to
Michael,
Tesla, alternating current. So I
yeah,
always like to put that
all
in there.
these great inventors, and even not these inventors, you can even look at it at sports. You know, Michael Jordan failed to hit the game-winning shot a few times, lost a few big games in his career, but he never gave up even after this because he saw it as a means of evolving into the next level. So learn to accept failure because this is a fact of life, and you have to have a thick,
Awesome.
and it would make your skin thicker, and you could eventually, if you don't stop, you could eventually succeed at overcoming whatever failure you have. Now, I mean, even
I love it.
for everything that you do, any big thing that happened in your life, came from you overcoming the fear of failure. You know, like when you ask your crush to go on a date with you, that's you overcoming your failure. You attending this big interview for a job that you want, that's you overcoming your fear of failure. So always consider failure, but don't let it stop you, because that's when the greatness arrives, is when you overcome your fear of it.
Yeah, I think that kind of mindset will be able to like help push anybody through certain obstacles. And I guess it's always easier to look back and be like, oh, I couldn't dunk or run this fast, but you keep or even like make an endless game or whatever. But it's what you learn from the failure
That counts. Yeah,
that counts.
I
And
think there's a quote about failure is a
valuable.
lesson. Yeah. Yeah.
And people sometimes they see failure as failure and nothing more. They don't see it like the seed of an idea that will grow to help you persist when the same crap happens to you 6 months down the line, 1 month down the line, and you're like, oh, I've been here. I know this feeling, and I know from my past experience that I've been able to continue to grow despite a failure.
Despite, it's like the pressure on the coal that turns the coal into a diamond. You
Yeah. So the mindset to know that what failure can be is that pressure. And there are professional, like you said, like Fortnite, like people who have had multiple pressures repeatedly, and they still continue to make games and grow, and yeah.
So just a sec, I'll just go.
Yeah, for sure. Cool. I'm gonna take a look, and I let Darius know. I think I want to try to shoot to end this within a couple more questions. I don't understand how the donuts delivery game was made. They probably did stuff in Xcode. Yeah, totally. I think definitely. So the foundation of the donuts delivery was made with Buildbox 2, but the finesse, like the polishing, was probably also done in Buildbox 2, but a lot of it done multiple places. And they have years of experience of using and creating games with Buildbox. So I think that's stuff that they've learned to do through time. So let's see. Preflop says one of the things I really like is making mistakes. You see you may see a mechanic you haven't thought about to create a really cool game. Yeah, totally. Lot of mechanics out there, and that's one of the reasons that I like playing. That's one of the reasons why I like playing all kinds of games, is to just see how mechanics are done. And I guess my thought is, if you play a game over and over and it's got the same kind of mechanic, it's almost like that game mechanic will seep into my subconscious, so that when I'm making my own game or doing something, that it'll come out, like that mechanic, that idea. And it's not from one game, but it's from many games, because there's, what Darius was saying, thousands of games that get released onto the App Store, so daily, which is crazy. I'm super curious about that as well. Any last minute questions from the audience? I think we might have one or two more questions, and then put a wrap to this amazing live stream.
All right.
Welcome back, Darius. So I was just thinking maybe we have like one or two more questions for you,
Sure.
And then try to wrap up this live stream in like maybe 15 minutes, because I don't know, this has been fun. I definitely had very open expectations to this live stream, and this is like one of the things that I enjoy doing, is doing things that I've never done before. And when you do something you've never done before, you're just like in this foreign territory, like, how do I do this live stream? And like, we did some like testing yesterday, and it's just this has been fun talking to you.
Thank you. And that's a good mentality as well. You try everything once and twice if you like it. That's a joke I got from a party.
Yeah, I think sometimes if I don't like it, I'll try it twice just to be sure.
Just to be sure.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I say about all the mistakes I make whenever I'm trying to do something. I'm like, I made that mistake just to be sure that I learned from it, because apparently I didn't. Let's see. I guess what was the first game you remember playing as probably a child or something? But
I know.
Take it to the way back.
Why am I out of focus? Am I out of focus? Or
you're a little bit out of focus, but I think if you just sometimes maybe if you go back a second, that was a little bit.
What happened?
Oh,
all right.
You were good now. Okay.
All right. So
yeah, you're good.
I think, although I'm not sure, I'll have to ask Mom. The very first.
I mean, like, game, what's the first game you remember? Like, all right. I guess.
I remember playing. Have you heard of the Jumpstart series? Jumpstart. It's made by the Knowledge Adventure. Anyone heard of that from the chat? No. All right. So
I'm getting nothing. This sounds like an old school game.
It's not really. It's in from the 90s. It's an
okay.
edutainment game. Have you ever heard of the term edutainment?
I have not.
It's an educational form of entertainment, sort of like the videos or films schools force us to watch from time to time. And Jumpstart is an educational game that taught you subjects like history or math.
Oh, and that's great.
It stars a frog and a firefly. I guess some people have heard of it, Knowledge Adventure. And then what I like about this is that I really learned from this game. I mean, it really boosted my creativity and imagination because they had a universe as well. I wonder if that in the long term influenced me. They had a, could
It
have.
probably did, consciously or subconsciously, but
And I think personality wise, it could have helped me as well because I remember after playing this educational game about fractions or about history at home,
our
and
game about fractions.
it's a very fun game. I guess I'm gonna get an emulator and play that one of these days. And then when my teacher brings it up, like, does anyone here know about fractions? I would be so confident because I know that reference. I have played that game.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
educational games work, and I think it helped me a lot. But in terms of a non-educational game that I remember playing, I know my parents had a Famicom, which is like an NES exclusive to some Asian countries. I don't think there was a Famicom. Was there a Famicom in the US? Because we
I
didn't
was
have
living
any.
in Europe at the time. I think I
All
remember
right.
playing when the Nintendo came out and the Atari came out. I was living in a country that doesn't exist anymore, but I was in Germany, and yeah. So, but you in the '90s, Famicom. That sounds like early '90s type of stuff.
Yes,
Maybe.
yes, it is early
So
90s.
I wasn't in the
And,
United States at that time, unfortunately.
and I remember playing, I remember watching them. I don't think I was allowed to play Contra or
Not allowed to
possibly,
play.
or possibly a bootleg version of Contra. And I remember there's like 100 games or 16 games in one cartridge or something. So I remember watching them play those games, and it really makes me nostalgic now. And I think there's a special magic factor in these games that we have to work on bringing back for the mobile game industry that we have right now. Even
Yeah, yeah. I mean, to me, it seems like when you were playing these games, educational, there was some magical factor that helped influence you into this whole world of creativity with
possibly.
games, and then you can then full circle with your games, give
Hmm.
people like a Black Mirror type of universe to let them
Hmm.
know that like also that there's more than what you just see. Like there's more than just a game. There's learning. There's weird like Black Mirror stuff going on, and there's more than just a game. But cool. I think well, good. I think that's good. Is there anything else you wanted to discuss? Otherwise, I'm gonna just do like an outro.
Remember, always play my games. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
a little shameless plug. AppSirGames.com. Follow
Yeah, check
me
it.
on Twitter. Subscribe to my channel. And always download my games because they're can't miss and must play, and you will never regret downloading my games. And the biggest uh, thing you can get from these games is that they're insanely unique and amazing, and you'd always wish that I make more, and I will always make more until maybe I enter law school or something, maybe, or me after I finish law school or something. So thank you so much, Al. Thank you for having me. It's been very fun.
Yeah,
And
yeah. It's been mutual. Lot of fun. Thank you, Darius. Links and comments below to AppSir, Darius. I'm gonna go ahead and put your Twitter on there as well.
thank you.
And thanks for joining me for this, first game dev experience. And it was just a lot of fun to pick your brain and knowing more about the AppSir universe and like how it came to be. Like knowing the backstory of how you wanted to make like movies, but you couldn't do it. So you like made a game that told us. It's just great stuff. Thank you so much, and stay safe out there. And I'm sure we'll talk between us. But thanks everyone for joining us, and don't forget to like and subscribe. And until next time, peace.